We're in a little bit different location of our house. This is the front room. It's been many different rooms in the years that we've lived here. Originally, the homeowner, it was her formal living room. We used it as a dining room. When Lad's mother was here, we used it as her room, and now it's become kind of like the sunroom and the playroom for the grandbabies. I wanted to just talk to y'all about a new series that's coming up that I'm kind of interested in doing and working on, and it's kind of a prepper, homesteader series. I don't consider myself a prepper, I consider myself a homesteader, but a homesteader is a prepper because most homesteads try to prepare for things. And I get that kind of from my parents. We never really, we would go to the store like once a month and buy for the whole month, and then just ever so often need to go back for milk or things like that. But we froze bread, we had butter, all those type of things. If we could freeze it, we would freeze it. If we could store it up, we stored it up. So I'm used to always, even as a young wife, I had a pretty full pantry. I was always kind of the one of those type that kept a pretty full pantry. I did not shop kind of like more like the Europeans do every day for the food. I kind of kept a pretty good stock of pantry items. And then y'all know my story about like right before COVID hit. I just felt like God was speaking to me and telling me I needed to stock up. It was really on my heart, and my husband kind of thought I'd lost our mind because that was actually about the time that I quit working, and I spent, a lot of those last paychecks on stocking up even more. And then of course the pandemic hit, which was a blessing that I had done that because we were pretty well sustained. I mean, we did not have to go to the store for anything, and I was pretty well sustained for us and in any needs that my daughter might have for her pantry as well. We have all seen the breakdown of the supply chain that's happening right now to keep grocery stores stocked up, the tragedies as are happening with farms and farmers and the weather. And so it's just a good idea to have some supplies stored up in your home for an emergency. You never know what an emergency might be. And emergency might be, you lose your job, you're sick, you can't get out to the store. There could be all sorts of kinds of emergencies. So it's good to have a pantry that's well stocked. Getting bombed by my husband for your emergencies. So there may be a lot of reasons for the need to prepare. Like back in COVID times, just think about it. How long if you got sick with COVID, if you didn't have groceries in the house, what were you going to do? Because you couldn't go to the store, you had COVID, and then even after you started feeling better, you had to quarantine for so long. And yes, there's lots of things now where you can go to the store and pick them up and all that kind of stuff, but in a lot of rural areas there's not a lot of that type of thing. There's not DoorDash and all those type of things, and a lot of restaurants and things did close down because of staff that had COVID, or they couldn't get their staff, they just didn't have enough staff to open. So that was a scenario that, a lot of people, before that happened, we would have never thought that would have happened. Then look back recently at the Ukraine war that's going on. Just think of how many people had to evacuate their homes. You think we won't ever have to do that, but there's nothing's guaranteed in this life that we might or might not have to do. We are lucky here where we're at. We live in a rural area, and rural areas are a little bit more protected from things like that, because if any kind of situation like that, they're going to be looking at the bigger cities, more industrial things to make a bigger impact. And that's what pretty much happened. Rural Ukraine was a little bit more sheltered from the processes of the war. But, it did get to that point. So there's many reasons why you might need to prepare, and why you might, you know, people used to talk about having a bug out bag and things like that, and you know, people thought they were just kind of like had a little bit of a screw loose. But after the Ukrainian war happened and people had to evacuate, I mean, the wildfires, the, you know, a gas leak, explosion, all sort of chemical leaks. There's all manner of reasons why you might need to prepare, why you might need to bug out. Every situation is different. You cannot prepare for every situation. But number one, increase your knowledge. Knowledge is key. No one can take your knowledge from you, and your knowledge might be the one thing that can sustain you. Is if you learn about edible plants, foraging, herbalism, just all sort, how to start a fire. There's so many people, y'all, it's not easy learning these skills. So sometimes just learning skills and practicing them could be the thing that could save your life. And having a household that's set up for different scenarios. We are very blessed in the home that we live in. We have gas that we cook on. We have a gas stove, and we have a wood burning fireplace, and you know, of course, we have electricity, and we have good water. So we're lucky in that way. We have all sorts of ways to heat our home. There's gas, or we could use the wood burning stove. I could cook on the wood burning stove. So there's lots of different things, an ice storm, any kind of weather patterns. There's different things that might make you need to have supplies on hand for you and your family. And that is the thing, is you need to prepare for who do you think would come and stay with you. Years ago, we had a couple, a friend of ours and their children that lived down in Houston in the Gulf of, you know, right on the Gulf of Mexico, and when there was a huge hurricane coming through, they had to bug out because they had children, and they came and stayed with us. So, you know, we were prepared because we had, number one, we had room, and then number two, we had you know, food and everything for them. And so we were pretty safe. We didn't have any problems, but we were a shelter for them when they needed it. So there's all sorts of reasons why you might need to be prepared, and why you might need to have things on hand and be well supplied in your home for different scenarios. So that's kind of the reason why we do it. We've seen it in our own lives. We've had to be prepared for different things. And so we just want to kind of share what we have done and what we've learned with y'all. And so this is going to be a series about preparedness, homesteading, that kind of thing. And we're going to have different things. I'm going to go over like a pantry list, just general prep things that you might need to have in your household. And then I'm also going to go over a medical prep list. Especially since I'm a nurse, I do feel like that, you know, I'm more geared to think like that. So I am going to go over a little bit of a medical prep list. And listen, there are lots of good YouTubers out there, y'all, that have tons of good information. And I have watched a lot of good YouTube channels and kind of gleaned from all of them. And this is what I have put together from even some, you know, information from other channels. So I would encourage y'all to be a seeker of knowledge and learn things, be well-rounded in being able to do a lot of these things. It's not, you can have the knowledge, but you got to apply the knowledge. So that is something you need to also learn. So I hope y'all stay with me and enjoy this series, and we will start with our first series, which is going to be the pantry prep list. And that has, lots of people have a pantry prep list, but that's the one we're going to start with because it's probably the most thing that people think about when they talk about being prepared, being well stocked, is having a well stocked pantry. So y'all, thanks for visiting with me, and I'll talk to y'all later.